Your neighbors are going to walk past your yard this season and stop dead in their tracks. Not because you worked harder than anyone else, not because you hired a landscaping crew, not because you spent $5,000 on cedar planks and fence posts. They are going to stop because you made one smart decision, and by next summer, your backyard will be completely invisible to every person who used to see straight through it. I am talking about a living privacy wall, a green, lush, naturally growing barrier that local height ordinances cannot touch, that grows on its own season after season, that looks better than any fence you could build, and that adds real measurable value to your property. Here is the legal piece most people do not know. While your municipality will cap a constructed fence at 6 feet, they generally have no authority over how tall a naturally growing tree gets. A row of the right trees can legally reach 40, 50, 60 feet and block every sight line without a single permit and without anyone being able to tell you to cut it down. 9 specific trees, all 9 right now. Stay with me until tree number 6, because that one solves a problem I hear about constantly from homeowners with tight suburban lots. Before we get into the list, drop your U.S. state or your hardiness zone in the comments right now. Zone advice on this channel is always specific, and I need to know where you are gardening. Your zone will determine which of these 9 trees belong in your yard and which ones do not. If you are new here, subscribe before you do anything else. I put out a new video every single week. This channel is built for gardeners who want results without turning their yard into a second job. Subscribe and let us get into these trees. Number 1, Thuja Green Giant. If you only plant one tree from this entire video, this is the one. The Green Giant grows 3 to 5 feet every single year. Let me put that in terms that mean something. You plant a 6-foot tree this spring. By next spring, it can be 9 or 10 feet tall. By year 3, you could be looking at a 12 to 15-foot wall of dense emerald green. And it does not stop there. The Green Giant matures at 40 to 60 feet, which means it eventually creates a screen that blocks not just your neighbor's yard, but their second-story windows. It is naturally deer resistant. It has virtually no serious pest or disease problems. It handles drought well once established and grows in a clean pyramidal shape that never needs shearing. You never have to pick up a pair of pruning shears. This tree performs in zones 5 through 8, which covers the Mid-Atlantic, the Southeast, and most of the Midwest. For the majority of people watching this video, the Green Giant is your starting point and your answer. Plant them 12 to 15 feet apart for a traditional screen, or as close as 8 feet if you want faster gap closure. The closer you space them, the sooner you have a wall. Number 2, Leyland Cypress. For the large property owners, coastal homeowners, anyone who needs an industrial-scale privacy screen built to last permanently. The Leyland Cypress pushes 3 to 5 feet of new growth per year, but it gets significantly bigger at maturity, 60 to 70 feet tall, 15 to 25 feet wide. This is not a tree for a tight suburban property line. This is a tree for when you have room and you want to block out the world permanently. What makes it stand apart from everything else is its tolerance for salt spray. If you garden on the Atlantic or Gulf Coast, where ocean air kills most other evergreens, the Leyland Cypress thrives where others fail. It adapts to heavy clay and sandy coastal soils alike. It performs in zones 6 through 10. Give it genuine space from structures, from power lines, from your house foundation. In hot, humid climates, make sure it has good air circulation to prevent the fungal issues that develop when trees are stressed and crowded. Plant it with the respect its size demands, and it rewards you for decades. Number 3, Emerald Green Arborvitae. Not everyone needs 60 feet of coverage. Not everyone has the yard space for it. If you are working with a smaller property, a tight side yard, a narrow strip between your driveway and your neighbor, or a front yard where proportions matter, the emerald green Arborvitae was built for exactly your situation. It grows 1 to 2 feet per year, slower than the green giant, but it tops out at 10 to 15 feet tall and only 3 to 4 feet wide. That shape is the important part. It naturally forms a tight, elegant column that stays neat without any trimming on your part. Plant them 3 to 4 feet apart, and within 3 to 4 years, you have a clean, uniform wall of jewel-toned green that holds its color beautifully through winter, even in cold climates. It performs in zones 3 through 8. That is one of the widest cold hardiness ranges on this entire list. If you are in Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Michigan, and your winters have ruled out some of the faster growers, the emerald green will not flinch. Number 4, American Pillar Arborvitae. Here is one that most garden centers do not carry in large quantities, and that is a shame because it solves a very specific problem I hear about constantly. You need privacy fast. You have a narrow property line, and you cannot give up 4 or 5 feet of yard width to a thick hedge. This cultivar was bred specifically for tight suburban spaces. It reaches 15 to 20 feet at maturity, but stays only 3 to 5 feet wide. That columnar profile means serious height and serious coverage, while barely taking up any yard space at all. The branching is dense. The foliage is packed tightly enough that when you plant them 4 to 5 feet apart, you get a solid visual barrier, even at that narrow footprint. It performs in zones 4 through 8. If you cannot find it at your local garden center, check online nurseries that specialize in fast-growing hedges. For narrow lots, townhouse yards, and side entries, this is the answer. Number 5, wax myrtle. This is one of the most underrated fast-growing screening plants in the American South, and I want every gardener in zones 7 through 11 to know about it. Wax myrtle is a broadleaf evergreen, not a needled conifer like the ones we have been discussing. The leaves are glossy and aromatic, and when a breeze moves through them, the hedge releases a pleasant, bay-like fragrance. But here is the number that gets attention. Wax myrtle can push up to 5 feet of new growth in a single growing season under good conditions. That is faster than almost anything else on this list. It matures at 15 to 20 feet and tolerates aggressive pruning. You can cut it back hard and it pushes right back without drama. It is also a native plant to the southeastern United States, which means it is adapted to the heat, the humidity, the sandy soils, and the wet conditions that kill most imported evergreens. Plant them 5 to 6 feet apart, and you can have complete visual privacy within 2 growing seasons. That is not an exaggeration. I want to stop here for just a moment. If you have made it this far and you are not subscribed, please do that right now. I put out a new video every single week, built for gardeners who want a yard that works for them instead of against them. Hit subscribe, and let us keep going. 4 more trees, and the one I told you to wait for is coming up next. Number 6, Spartan Juniper. This is the one I told you to stay for, and here is why it belongs on this list separately from the American Pillar. The Spartan Juniper reaches 15 to 18 feet tall and stays 4 to 5 feet wide. Similar proportions on paper, but it is built for a completely different set of conditions. It performs in zones 4 through 9. That is an extraordinarily wide range. It handles the desert heat of Arizona, the brutal winters of the northern plains, the humidity of the Midwest, and the rocky, compacted soils of suburban developments where the topsoil was scraped off during construction, and you are essentially planting in subgrade fill Most trees struggle in that environment. The Spartan juniper does not care. It establishes quickly, grows at a steady rate, maintains its shape naturally, requires almost no intervention once it is in the ground. It is naturally deer resistant, which in the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, and rural areas across the Midwest is not a small thing. Deer will walk past a row of Spartan junipers looking for something easier, plant them 4 to 5 feet apart for a dense, narrow screen that builds meaningful height year after year while taking up minimal yard width. Number 7, Nellie R. Stevens Holly. This one does double duty in a way none of the others on this list can match. 2 to 3 feet of new growth per year, matures at 15 to 25 feet. Foliage that is dense, deep green, and genuinely beautiful. And in late fall and winter, it puts on a display of bright red berries that turns a functional privacy screen into something worth looking at from your own yard. But that is not the double duty I am talking about. If you have had issues with animals or people cutting through your property, the Nellie R. Stevens holly is a physical barrier. The leaves are spiny and genuinely unpleasant to push through. A row of these at the property line creates something deer avoid, dogs do not push through, and people absolutely do not want to squeeze past. A living fence that bites back and looks beautiful doing it. It performs in zones 6 through 9, handles both full sun and significant shade, and manages heat and drought well once established. Space them 5 to 6 feet apart and let them reach their full height. That is the entire point of planting them. Number 8, cherry laurel. This one is for the homeowners dealing with shade along the fence line. Maybe you are bordered by a neighbor's large established trees. Maybe your property line runs on the north side of a structure. Maybe you have already tried Arborvitae in that spot and watched them slowly decline because they were not getting the light they needed. Cherry laurel was designed for exactly that situation. It adds 2 to 3 feet per year, matures at 10 to 15 feet, and tolerates shade from partial to quite heavy. That makes it one of the very few fast-growing privacy options that will actually perform when sunlight is limited. The leaves are large, glossy, and deep green. In spring, it produces fragrant white flower spikes that are genuinely attractive. It grows in zones 6 through 9. One thing to know before you plant it. Like most members of the prunus family, the seeds and leaves contain compounds that are toxic if ingested by pets or livestock. That does not affect its value as a privacy screen, but if you have animals that graze or dogs that chew on plants, keep that in mind. Number 9, Carolina Sapphire Cypress. I saved this one for last because it is genuinely different from everything else on this list. This tree is not green, it is blue. A rich, cool, silvery blue that stands out against the landscape like nothing else, especially when morning or late afternoon light hits it at an angle. In a row, these trees create a privacy screen that looks designed rather than just planted. It grows 3 to 5 feet per year and matures at 20 to 30 feet. And it produces a strong, clean, cedar-like fragrance that fills the surrounding air on warm days. That fragrance is not just pleasant, it acts as a natural deterrent for deer and many common garden pests, which means this tree is simultaneously creating privacy, looking remarkable, and discouraging the animals and insects that damage your nearby garden beds. It performs in zones 7 through 9. Best suited for the South, the Southwest, and Pacific coastal regions. In drier climates, once established, it requires very little supplemental water at all. If you want a privacy screen that your neighbors stop and ask you about, that is your tree. Before I let you go, I want to give you 4 things that will determine whether your privacy screen succeeds or fails in the first 2 years. Planting the right trees the wrong way is every bit as frustrating as planting the wrong trees. First, plant in a staggered double row instead of a single straight line. 2 offset rows with trees positioned, so each tree in the back row fills the gap between 2 trees in the front row. You layer the canopies instead of trying to close gaps with single width coverage. More trees and more space required, but if your goal is maximum privacy as fast as possible, this is how it is done. Second, water low and slow, not a quick spray with a hose. Turn the hose down to a low trickle, set it at the base of the tree, and let it run 2 to 4 hours. Do that every day for the first 10 days after planting. Then water deeply 2 to 3 times per week through the first full summer. Getting your trees through that first season with deep, consistent moisture is the single biggest factor in whether they launch aggressively or sit and struggle. Third, never cut into old wood. Arborvitae and junipers will only regenerate growth from the green, actively growing portions of the branch. If you prune past the living green and expose the brown woody interior, that section will not grow back. It is a permanent gap. Stay within the current season's growth when you shape, and for most trees on this list, you will rarely need to prune at all. Fourth, keep mulch off the trunk. Apply 2 to 3 inches in a ring extending out to the drip line, but pull it back 3 to 4 inches from the trunk itself. Mulch held against the bark traps moisture and causes rot, fungal disease, and creates a place for boring insects to overwinter at the soil line. The root flare needs open air contact. 9 trees, all proven performers, all capable of building a privacy wall that a constructed fence never could. If you are in zones 3 through 5, start with the emerald green Arborvitae or the Green Giant. Both handle hard winters without difficulty. Tight lot, go emerald green. Room to grow and maximum height, go Green Giant. Zones 5 through 7, you have the widest selection on this list. Green Giant, American Pillar, Spartan Juniper, Nellie R. Stevens Holly, and Cherry Laurel all perform in your range. Zones 7 through 10 in the south and southeast, lean on the wax Myrtle and the Nellie R. Stevens Holly. For coastal exposure, add the Leyland Cypress. For the south and southwest in drier conditions, the Carolina Sapphire Cypress is exceptional. Drop your state and which tree you are planting this season in the comments right now. Subscribe if you have not already. Next week I will be back with more content built for gardeners who want results without the guesswork. Happy gardening.